Okay, so we're going to take the scanner from this point, so the end of the last video, to a finished piece ready for UV, so everything will be done by that point. So this is going to be a relatively long video, but we're going to cover a lot of ground. Okay, so what did we get done last time? So we got the screen done, we've got the beginning of the tube done, and we got the handle done from start to finish. So this has actually been UV'd, ready for us to carry on, which is good. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is first of all bring up my reference and have a look at what we're missing. So we're missing obviously the frame, we're missing the coil, the battery, the screws, well the battery detailing, the screws, the little bumps, the switch, the coax inputs, the LEDs, the dials on the side, the holes for the booleans, all this kind of jazz. So, you know, a fair chunk for us to do, but a lot of this is very simple. A lot of this, it's basically the same operation, just done in different methods, done in different ways, but still the same, using the same kind of thinking. So, for instance, the bolts at the back, I'm going to make one on its own, and then we can just duplicate from that, and I'll use that as kind of a bit of a side piece. So, if I move this here, so if you don't know what this bolt looks like, it's very simple. We've just got to count the amount of edges, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, easy. We'll start off with a 6-sided cylinder. So let's make a 6-sided cylinder. Like that. That's 60, Dave, not 6. There we go. And then kind of get the kind of scale right, like that. It's looking okay. Okay, so that's already looking pretty good. But what I've got in the middle is a much rounder piece. Now, because this is going to be a portfolio piece, I'm going to make that an actual geometric object in the middle rather than trying to rely on some form of texturing process to do that. So I'm going to make the little circle piece in the middle using techniques we've done before. So I'm going to use all this object. I'm not going to make any new objects. I'm just going to bevel that center vertex and then do the whole process of that. So make it a bit bigger. Let's see, about that big. Again, looking at my reference here. There we go. And then I'm going to smooth the center. So I'm adding more divisions into the center, like that. And then with that done, I'm going to circularize the center. So there you go. So now I've got the shape of my circle piece in the middle. Then I'm just going to extrude in. And then take this little center there, extrude that down. Just like that. Now if you want to be really cheap and cheeky, you can actually close this off on the inside. And make it more like this shape instead. So I'm just going to bring these very close together. And then just hit merge while I'm in object mode. And make sure they all seal together. There you go. So that gives me the same impression. It's just I've not got an extra ring of faces at the bottom. And now I've just got to fix up my end guns going around the outside. So again, we've been doing this loads, so I'm just going to get the old multi-cut and start here and then just go around and make triangles like this. And that, and then that, and then that, and then that. Perfect. So now no more end guns. And last thing I'm going to do is just bevel the very, very outside just once to get rid of that nasty edge. Oh, let me just, there we go. Like that. There we go. And then let me just raise this up a tiny bit. Take away the bottom faces because these are going to be attached to a surface. So I'm never going to see that, so I can get rid of all that bottom face. And that's good. And while I'm here, actually, I can UV this. And this is actually going to be really, really easy for me to UV. Because if I look at this, this is a very, very simple kind of texture. It's just one solid kind of metal color. So the UV of this is going to be very simple, but I'm not going to be super dirty with it and be just like one solid mass. One thing I'm not going to do is do something just like plain out projection from the top and then just unfold 3D. Oh, there you go. I'm not going to do that. You could technically do that, But what's happening is I'm really stretching the faces on the outside. So for good housekeeping, I'm not going to do that. But what I'm going to do is approach this the same way I might approach something like the barrel or the handle, because it's very similar. What I'm going to do is going to grab all the very outside cylindrical faces like this, and then I'm just going to do a cylindrical unwrap on those. So boom, cylindrical, move that to the side. All that should be left now is just the top, and then I'm going to do a planar projection, because this is pretty much all flat. Yes, we do have this little bit of an inset in here, but in this case this is going to be so small I'm not going to be that bothered about that. So I'm just going to planar project that one from the y-axis, because obviously we're looking down at the object. And this I'm going to leave alone. I'm not actually going to do anything with this anymore. This is technically done. But this one, you can see that it's not quite right. This is very stretched. So what I'm going to do is just run a vertical unfold on this. So modify, unfold option box, legacy, vertical, unfold constraint vertical. Done. And then let me just get the old textile density. So textile density this. And then apply it to this. There we go. And what I can do, just to keep things nice and neat, is just scale this down slightly. And I'm going to sew this bolt head onto this. So right there, for instance, I'm just going to sew that back onto there. Oh, but I will have to rotate this back round. And then just straighten that UV. Oh, no. Straighten the UV shell. There we go. Okay. Cool, so we've UV'd that. So every time we duplicate this now, it's going to duplicate both the object and the UVs, meaning that I don't have to UV this object multiple different times. So that's the whole point of that. Okay? So, boom, that's done. My bolt's done. What else have we got? So let's look at our reference again. We've got a little diode. I'm going to make that, this little LED dude. Okay. So what's going on there? Well, that's obviously a cylindrical base. It looks a little bit smoother, obviously, than the bolt. So I'm going to go for something about 12 sides for this one. So let's go for 12. And then look at it again. So starting from the base, going upwards, gets always easier. It's very squat. And then we come in, we go up, come in, and then we have this little bit of a collar here. So I'm thinking up, in, then up again for the red section. So again, extrusion, slightly the top faces. So I'm going to extrude in, and then I'm going to extrude up. Then I'm going to extrude in a little bit, and then I'm going to extrude up again for the actual red LED section, like that. And I'm just going to bevel this edge just there, just to give it the impression of a smoother edge. Like that. Boom. So that's the LED done. Dead simple, as you can see. Dead simple. I'm just going to take away all these faces at the bottom. You could bevel this top edge if you wanted to. This, to me, looks very square for a button or an LED. It could be a button, could be an LED. So you could bevel it a little bit if you wanted to, something like that. But it's so small that would you warrant that amount of new faces? Cool. So while we're here, let's UV this one. Let's switch back to the old UVs. So this is going to be a combination of what we're going to be learning next class and what we're going to be learning, what we've learned in previous classes. So all the UV and stuff is exactly what I'm doing here. Okay, so this, what have we got? Now this, I'm going to approach this a little bit differently. This is very small compared to everything else, and I'm thinking that I could probably keep all this metal section as one big solid group. So I'm going to grab that bottom face down there, and then shift full stop, grow that selection right to there. So just before we get to the LED, and then I'm going to do a cylindrical. Boom, like that. Move that out of the way for now. Then all that should be left in this is just this. And for this, again, what I'm going to do is just cylindrically unwrap the main body. Move that out of the way. Then all that should be left is the top, which for us is perfect because that's a perfectly round shape, and then that's a perfectly round shape, so that's good. And then I'm just going to hit both of these objects now with an unfold legacy vertical. There we go. So if you check the checkerboard, so yes, this does go from big to small, so it does have some kind of warping in there, but it's not a massive difference. And then I'm just going to get the textile density from this section here, and then apply that to earthen. Set that. There you go. And then again, I'm going to sew this top piece onto here, just to keep stuff kind of together and organized. I like doing that. You don't have to do that, but for me, I like doing that because it keeps things nice and organized. So I'll keep these together and move them out of the way. Cool, so that's 2 things done. One that I'm going to duplicate a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 times. One that it's just so simple that when I've made it, I might as well duplicate it. I might as well UV it straight away. So while we're in this region, let's make this little plug coax here. Okay, so what's going on with this? Well, again, it's a cylinder. It's bigger than this, so if I went for 12 for this diode, I'm going to go for 16 to 18 for this. So I think I might go for 16 because that gives me the nice little intersection in the middle. A little cross. And then just scale. So I might as well scale it relative to this for now. So I'm looking at the diameter of this. I'm looking at the diameter of this. This is pretty much double what I've got for this little diode. So I'm going to just kind of do that. Like that. Okay, so what have we got? We've got this little rubber section here, then we go up, then we go in, then we go up, then we go in, then we go up again. But everything gets progressively more fluted as we come to the top here, so I'm going to grab all this top section first. Bring that in. Got top section, so extrude that in. For that bottom kind of ring section right there, then extrude up and just scale it in for this little textured section here, which I'm going to do texturing in texture. I'm not going to bother doing it in geometry. Extrude again. And then extrude it again. Maybe that's a bit long, about there, yeah. Now here as well, because I've got this coil going into this section, I'm going to make the recess where this coil is going to go in, just to make it a bit more believable. So again, I'm going to extrude, bring that in, then extrude, push that down. There we go. And then I'm just going to go through and do all the beveling. So the beveling on this section is going to be similar. So from here to here, it's going to be the same. I'm just going to do a single bevel like that. That feels quite nice. The top though, it's a bit bigger, so I'm going to bevel this together. And if you look at this, whoop, there you go, and add a single segment right there. In fact, this, if I go back, this feels a little bit more like that, yeah, a bit fatter. Like that. There you go. And then make any adjustments as well. If I feel that some bits are too short, too long, I can literally just grab sections and move them like that. Like that. And once again, I'm just going to take away all the bottom faces because I don't need them. Whoop, like that. Cool. Okay, so that was quick. So let's do the UVing on this. You'll be able to see a pattern in this. This is cylindrical. And I'm going to do this in chunks because we've got basically 2 different kinds of rubber here. We've got the collar and this kind of section here, which look to be the same kind of rubber. And then you got this texturized rubber here. So let me just do that in chunks. Let me grab this bottom face, Shift full stop to grow that selection. Cylinder can unwrap this section. Move that to the side. Do the next bit. Grab those. Cylindrically unwrap this. And then the last bit, I'm going to take this all the way into here, but I'm not going to grab this top face, obviously. So, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, that one, and that one. And then cylindrical unwrap. And then just move that to the side. And then again, because we've got this cap, whatever's left here should be this, which is fine. So this can actually just be moved to the side. And then shock horror, I'm just going to do an unfold legacy on these. Because vertical, because that's what I've been doing so far. Boom, done. Look at that. Perfect. Let me just bring these closer together, kind of stack them with each other. Get the old textile density going again. So grab this top piece here, for instance, and then I'll just get that ratio, apply that to everything. There we go. Now for this, I'm actually thinking different. Because yes, technically, these are all different textile densities, as we can see. But I'm thinking a little bit ahead. I'm thinking a little bit for my, when I build my UVs and my UV sheets, that it's going to be much easier for this to just be left as like one group of a rectangle like this. Now I'm going to rarely do this. I'm not going to do this for everything, but this is going to be so small, and the only thing on this that I really need is the rubber kind of stuff going on here. But I don't want to have an awkward UV layout just because this is a little bit like this. I might change it later on, but for now I'm just going to leave these the same relative size, and I'm just going to move them down here. Cool. So right there, what have we been doing? 20 minutes, and we've got 3 UVs, 3 objects done. Super, super cool. I'm going to carry on that trend. We're going to look at this little dude here. We're going to make that. So what is this? Again, it's a cylinder, but this one has a little bit of a thing coming out the bottom right there. It's going to be easy enough to do. So again, this is slightly bigger than this. So in this one, I'm going to go for a 20-sided cylinder. Or maybe an 18 or 16. I might stick to 16. So let's go for 16. Yeah, let's go for 16. Okay, so same jazz. I'm just going to get starting from the bottom, we've got this kind of collar section that does look like it comes in a little bit. So grab that, bring you in a tiny bit. And then all the top faces I'm going to extrude in. And then extrude up. And that's the general shape, but obviously, like I said, we've got this little thing sticking out the bottom. So I'm just going to extrude that down, but I'm going to give myself a little bit of a gap between this square section here and this black collar section here. Because if I was just to do that now, when I extrude it down, it looks like it comes straight, like it sits right across that section there. So I'm not a mad fan of. I'm not a mad fan of it at all. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a gap. So I'll get my old thing, old control, and add an edge about there. Just gives me a little bit of a gap, that's all. And one on top as well, because if you look, it doesn't come all the way to the edge. It looks like it stops just before it starts this bevel. So I'll put one about there as well. Cool. Now I'm going to just extrude out this bottom bit, but what I've got to do is look and try and get the best idea across my 2 references how wide that little dude is. So it's pretty wide. So I'm thinking if I grab these 4 faces and just extrude them down and then flatten that out, does that look the right width? To me that looks too wide. Too wide. If I grab these 2, extrude that down, now that looks too thin. So essentially what I've got is an in-between of 4 and 2. So 3. But 3 is at a cockeye angle. You can see there that the selection kind of comes out like that, which isn't great. So what I'm going to do is rotate this round, the object round, so that the flat face here, this edge here, is facing perfectly down and not off to an angle. Now that needs me to do a little bit of maths, but it's fairly easy maths, because all I'm going to do is rotate this round, begin to rotate this round, so this is fairly flat, like that. Okay, and then I'll have a look at this rotation that's happened here. So I've got rotation Y, 11 point do. So if I take this to the nearest, so like 12 for instance, that's slightly too far. If I put this to 11, that looks like it's slightly too far. So what I'm going to do is just a bit of maths to figure out what degrees, how many degrees I rotate this so that this edge, the very, very bottom of the object, is actually a flat edge rather than this cross section here. So the maths for this is a 16-sided shape, so this is 360 degrees divided by 16, and I actually have my little calculator here. So 360 divided by 16 is 22.5, but that will just bring another edge right to the bottom of there. So if I do that, 22.5, 22.5, see, it really doesn't do anything because it doesn't like it's done anything, because it rotates it round so that the next edge there is pointing downwards. But then I half that, which would be 11.25. So 11.25. Boom. So a bit of maths involved, but that's about, you know, another kind of extent of how complex this really gets. So if I just do that math again, I take 360 degrees, because obviously that's a circle, and then I divide it by the amount of segments that I've got. So my segments for this are 16, so I divide it by 16. And then I half that number, so divide that by 2, it's 11.25. And that kind of formula works for everything. If you want to get an object which has a perfect cross-section in it, but you don't want to have the cross-section be at the very middle, vertical and horizontal. Okay, so now, after all that, if I grab, let me orientate myself, there we go, boom, 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 there you go. So if I grab these three, extrude that down, flatten it out, that feels a lot better to my reference. Nice. Let's bring it down a little bit. Yeah. Cool. I'm happy with that. So now I can just go through and do the rest of the cleanup. So, the rest of the kind of beveling and modeling. So just raise it up a tiny bit. I'm going to bevel this top edge here. This is a nice big bevel. Single segment, like that. And then I've just got one bevel on this kind of rubberized section here. Just like that. Boom, done. Take away the bottom faces because we don't need those. Actually, I got more than that bevel, should I say? I've got more than that to do. So I've got the inside there where the coil goes in. I'd like there to be an insert there as well. So I'm just going to extrude that, bring that in. Oh, ooh, we've got a whoopsie there. So I've done a bit of a whoopsie by accident. So I don't know how I've done that. Okay, that's simple. So I've done a load of stuff. I've done double extrusions. I've duplicated out faces that shouldn't be duplicated. So yeah, I've really made a mess of that, as you can see. So it's okay though, because how I fix this is just by, first of all, selecting everything in object mode and merging. That gets rid of everything. Boom. Let's have a look on the inside. But I've still got that face on the inside here. So all I've got to do is object mode, face mode, just delete those faces on the inside. Just like that. So all I've done there is in object mode, just hit merge. So I'm pressing 3 as well to get my soft select, my soft proxy smooth. So I'll go back and get all those horrible bits back. So I can see there I've done, honestly I don't know how I've actually done this. All I'm going to do is hit merge. that merges all the faces or the edges together that are close enough to each other. So all the double extrusions get deleted manually. These two sections get put together, but I can see here that this little bump is telling me that there's something's wrong in that area. So if I come inside, I've got this little face on the inside, so I need to get rid of this. This is a bad face. So I just delete those, and then that's left me with that, which is good. Now I can go and extrude in. Offset that inwards, that's better. And then I'm going to not offset that, I'm going to push the thickness in a little bit, just like that. And I'm going to do some beveling here, because this does look like it's beveled a little bit, and I kind of do want to have that bevel in there, but I'm going to be careful when I do this. So first of all, I'm going to bevel the bottom section here, on both the inside and the outside. Just this at the minute, because this is a complete loop. This selection doesn't end on both of them. It means that that bevel is just going to be a continuous, lovely bevel. Like that. Now the next ones will cause some end-ons, but I'm going to fix them up. So I'm going to grab each corner and take it all the way into the middle. Like that. So double click them, take it all the way into the middle. Now my bevels are going to appear possibly up here, possibly down there, but definitely on the inside. So I'm going to bevel. I'm going to grow that bevel a little bit. So you can see that. So I'm going to grow that so that this top vertex there need to become one. But then obviously I've got my issue here, underneath here, and here, as well as on the inside here. They're easy enough to fix. Okay, so that's done. So now it's got to fix up that issues with the bevels. So I can see here that there's no issue there. That's fine, but obviously here, big old end-on. So let me just grab that, pull that over to there. That fixes that up, easy enough. So from that corner there to that corner there, fixes these two. Now we've got a nice section there. I do the same thing on the other side. Like that. Parfait. And this bottom one down here, I can just target weld those down into the vertex below it to fix up that end-on. So end-on. Like that. And like that. Fixed. So the outside end-ons are now fixed. And the inside, I can just get the target weld, not target weld, the multi-cut again. I'm just going to go from this edge here down to basically its lower counterpart there. Fix that. From there to there, fix that. There you go. All the end-ons are fixed. No problemo. And then we come to UV this one. So this one's a little bit different because we've got multiple different things going on. We've got cylindrical and we've got cubey kind of stuff. So that's how I'm going to approach this. So again, I'm going to just check. Yeah, there's no face at the bottom. Let's get some UVing happening. Going to grab this bottom face, grow that up to the rubber at the end of the rubber section, like there. Do a cylindrical. Now this one I've got to be careful because I'm going to grab from here. So I'm going to actually leave these two faces alone for now. I'm going to leave these two sets alone. So I'm going to go around from here. I'm going to turn off this so it's a bit easy to see. I'm going to select all the cylindrical section, excluding obviously this section I've just made, the bit that sticks out. So I've just got to be a bit careful when I go around and select this. So I can use paint select and just be careful and just grab the bits that I need. Careful around here. Underneath here. Okay. So that's what that's going to be. Now this one, I'm actually going to tell it where to put the seam as well. So remember, you can rotate the unwraps, and I've not been doing that too much. I've basically just been allowing it to put the seam in where I want it to be. But for this one, I'm going to control it a bit because I think the seam should be where there's less geometry, so around here, somewhere around here anyway. So when I do my cylindrical unwrap, I look to see where that seam is. The seam is right at the back there. So I'm going to find that little X, which is at the bottom, right there. Click the little X. Click the, so I'm going to, I just click. I don't click and drag. I just click. So I just click on that. Boom, right there. And then here, I start to rotate my projector so that over this white line moves to one of these edges here. So if I start to rotate that around the y-axis, you can see the little grey thing is turning around. And you can see it's updating my UVs as well. So if I start rotating this around, you can see there, boom. So I'm going to leave it right there. Perfect. Easy enough. So now I might as well grab this top section here and just move it out of the way, because this again is one of those where the UVs are actually pretty much perfect from what I've got here for what I've got here. So for me, all that's left is this little slither of UV is actually this. So how am I going to approach this? Well, I'm going to hit this with an automatic unwrap to see what it gives me. Okay, it's giving me something. Actually, before I do that as well, I'm just going to freeze the transformation and delete history on this, so that the projection doesn't get influenced by any rotation that I've done before. So now when I do that again, it should give me a bit of a nice projection. There we go. That's better. See how things are straight now and not wonky. Okay. So what I'm going to do is make a strip of UVs for the outside of the body. So all this section here, I'm going to turn into a strip, and then I'm going to sew these bits onto it. And then this bit underneath I'll leave on its own. Okay. And here's one of my little tricks that I've kind of come to do over the years to speed up my UVing, but it might seem a bit kind of insane when I first do it. I'm going to grab my section. So I know I don't want to have any seams around here, and I want to have one of my seams back here. So I'm going to choose one of these to be unsewn. And I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to sew this one, and this one. So let me just select those lines. Again, I know they're unsewn because they're thick and white. And I'm going to move and sew. There we go. So now I've got my strip. That's a lovely strip right there. That's the inside there, so that's done. I like that. Now here's the crazy thing. I'm going to grab everything else, all that's left. So I'm doing all my big bits first. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing all my big bits first. And then all that should be left is just little bits. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all these up into individual chunks. So I'm going to select all these, cut and sew, and then just cut. So each one of these now is an individual piece. That's because if I start to sew stuff on to this, everything's kind of connected and it might deform, or it might start to over warp, or I can't sew stuff on properly because it starts to bend and stretch and stuff. So to negate that, if I just break all the little chunks up into individual chunks like this, for me, I like that because then I can go through and sew strips on at a time. So for instance, I can see here right there, I can just start sewing around in chunks. So move and sew. And here's a little bit of an insight to speed up the process. If you press G after you've done something, it's repeat last tool. So I've just used move and sew to do that. So if I select this edge now, continuing on that flow, press G again, I now sew that back on, and I'll do it again. Select those, press G, I'm sewing it on. So I'm sewing around. So I can do the one next to it. So. So that's pressing G. G for Greta, I guess. Boom. So you can see there how I'm quickly sewing these things on, and it's also starting to deplete what's happening here. Boom. So I'm sewing these like little strips on like this, and you can see how this is starting to get clearer and clearer. And now all that's left is the little bits in the middle. Again, we start getting rid of little bits of stuff. last one. And there's one last piece to go. Poof. Right, there we go. Now for this as well, I'm going to sew all these together into one solid strip. It is going to change it's going to warp it a little bit. But again, this is so simple and small, and this is such a small area that I'm not really going to be that bothered. It's in the big open areas, the places that are facing the character, that I don't want to have any stretching, or as little stretching as possible. But for this, because this is such a weird kind of shape I've got going on, if I just start to sew these, oopsie daisy, back together, I get a much nicer shape when I'm done. There we go. Now the last thing I'm going to do, just to fix this little object, is before I do the unfolding on these bits, is I'm just going to straighten this out, because you can see I've got this like being very wobbly, and the checkerboard is very, very kind of wobbly. I'm going to straighten this out a little bit in some areas. In some areas I'm going to leave it as it is. Okay. So vertically you can see that we're getting a little bit wobbly. So I'm going to leave this back face, all these vertexes, all these UVs, sorry, not vertexes, all these vertexes back here, I'm going to leave alone. But these ones here I'm going to straighten up, as well as the ones horizontally, sorry, excluding this top one here. Okay, so vertically what I'm going to do is start on the left hand side with the UVs. I'm going to grab all the UVs down one side, like that. Make sure I don't over select, so I just want one row. And then on my channel, on my UV toolkit here on the left, on the right, I can't tell my left and right, on the right hand side, I'm going to go into Align and Snap, which is near the bottom, right there. And I've got these little tools here, and I think I might have gone through and doing these in another video. At the very, very top, I've got these 6 little icons, which I love. And these just basically align to the furthest left selected UV, align to all the middle UVs, align to the furthest right UV, align to the top selected UV, align to the middle UV, align to the bottom selected UV. So here I want to align everything to the furthest left. So I'm going to click that and basically go through and do that. So then select the next row, align to the left, select the next row, align to the left, the next row, align to the left, select the next row, done. So I can leave those alone now. And again, I'm not going to I'm not going to touch these ones on the right hand side. So that's looking a bit better. But now we've got the horizontal one. So what we're going to do is align to we're going to alternate from lowest to highest depending. So this one, we're going to align to the highest. So we're going to click the 4th one along. And this one, we're going to align to the middle, which is the 5th one along. This one, 5th one along, to the middle, to the middle. Again, you can use that, press G to repeat last tool. So as you can see, boom. There we go. Oh, that one's not been done properly. There we go. Boom. Much, much better. Yes, there's still a little bit of warping in some of the corners, but generally that's fine. There are some objects that you can't avoid warping on for a myriad of reasons. Cool. So now we can sort the rest of it out, because we've obviously still got all this stuff to go here. So all I'm going to do for this is just do a unfold legacy vertical. After all that complex stuff, we go back to the simple stuff. Boom, that's done. And this, I'm just going to do a unfold 3D. So I'm going to change that unfold method back to 3D, and then just allow that to unfold like that. Perfect. So now I can put all these together. So let's rotate you around 90 degrees. Let's put you over here. Let's just get a textile density as well. So get that, and let's just make everything the right textile density. That's better. Look at the difference. There you go. All the little bits. Awesome. So I'm going to grab that and move that over here. So now we've got those four done. Awesome. So we've got the little LED, we've got the switch, not the switch, sorry, we've got the plug, the other plug. Now we're going to do the switch. And we're going to make this out of several pieces, but then make it into only two pieces. One being the actual switch itself, because it's a moving mechanical object, so we don't want that to be affixed to the main switch bed, and then one for the switch bed itself. Excluding the screws, we're not going to put those in. Oh, are we going to put the screws in? Are we going to include the screws? I don't know. Cool. So yeah, let's make this. So I'm making these separate, and you can wait until you've done all the main big bits, or you can wait until they can do this at the beginning. It doesn't really matter. I'm just doing this because I feel like doing all the small bits first. So let's do the little switch bed. There we go. Let's have a look at that right there. Oh no, that's that. There you go. Let's change you back to. Okay, so what we're looking at here, we're looking at a cube-based bed, and then a six-sided bolt head, and then a ring on the inside, and then the actual switch. So we've done all this kind of stuff together. I can tell you that this is going to be a little bit, pardon me, a little bit of bridging, a little bit of beveling, and a little bit of that kind of the same thing we did for the bolt to make the inside rounder than the outside. So what I'm going to do is start off with the plate bed. And what is that? It's a big old cube. So something like that. Again, take away the faces we don't need right away. And I'm going to get the beveling done at this stage for this as well. So let me get bevels in the corner first. Let's do those first though. In each one of the vertical corners, I'm just going to grab that, hit it with a bevel, add a single segment in there. I think that's enough. And then just adjust my fraction. So that feels about right. 0.119. Yeah, that feels about right. And then I'm going to do another bevel around the outside. Just like that. I'm making mine a little bit chunkier than it looks in the reference, because I just want to make it a bit chunkier for our purposes. Cool. Okay, so this big face in the middle now is a massive end gun. But that's cool, because I'm actually going to delete this later on to affix what this is here, and then do a bunch of like bridging and stuff. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is bring in our bolt. So our six-sided bolt. So I'm going to make a cylinder, make it six sides. Look to see where the pointy ends are facing. So the pointy ends are actually facing up and down, and the flat sides are facing left and right. So I'm going to rotate that round a little bit. There you go. So is that right? Is that correct? Yes, it is. So I've rotated that around 30 degrees. I'm just going to poke the center of this. So we should all know poke as well. So edit mesh poke to give me that little center to align to. So holding V to snap to that. Where'd it go? There you go. Move you up. And then I'm just going to scale that. So you notice as well I'm switching views a fair few times doing this. So what I'm doing is, effectively, I'm tapping, behind the scenes what I'm doing is I'm just tapping space, and then I'm going to the right view for me. So for instance, my top view, I'm going to that one, of my side view and my whatever view, that kind of thing. So effectively I'm just doing that. I'm just tapping space to go to fore view, and then just tapping space over the view I want to go into. But what I'm actually doing is holding space, holding left click where it says Maya in the middle, and then I can actually choose my viewport from there. But I just do this very, very fast, that's all. Okay, so that's just D and V that to the bottom of the bolt, and then V snap that to there. There we go, so everything's aligned. So let me bring this back. Let me zoom into this again. There we go. And then I'm going to make the center of this. So again, I'm just going to bevel the inside of this, make it nice and big. Subdivide the center, or smooth the center. Circularize it. Okay, now we get a circle. And then extrude this up. Extrude this in. And then we'll extrude this down. And then I'm just going to extrude this and merge the center just so it's that kind of shape like there. And then I can fix up this area just like we did with the bolts. So, you know, it's the same stuff. One of the things, like when I'm on about analyzation, one of the things we should be looking for is areas where we're seeing the same thing repeated. You'll see this a lot in anything industrialized because you'll use the same shapes for certain things. You know, tools are standardized across the world. So it stands to reason that a bolt is the same amount of edges round. A screw head is the same kind of shape. You're not going to get a diamond screw shape in one country and then a Phillips head in another. You know, a Phillips head is a Phillips head. A cross head is a cross head. There we go. Cool. So now that's the switch bed kind of done geometrically, but then obviously I need to affix these two things together. So what I'm going to do is just take away all the faces in the middle. So again, we were only using that poke as a way to position our geometry at first. And then I'm going to take away all the faces here. Very important that we do that. Then I'm going to combine these two things together because I'm going to bridge these. So we can't bridge between two objects which aren't combined. So let me combine them together. And then I'm going to bridge what I can bridge. So I know I can bridge that flat face here to this flat face here. Bang. And then the same on the other side. Bridge this one to this one. Bang. Cool. And then we've got these holes to fill right here. Now this is where it might be a bit tricky to understand how to do this. But I will show you how I would do this. All I need to do is get some geometry here. I've got nothing to fill in this area. And I don't really want to start bridging to random faces yet. I can do. I'll do one method on this side. I'll do a different method on the opposite side. That'll wind up with the same result. So first method is I'm just going to grab these two faces or edges. I'm just going to extrude out a new bit of face like that because I just need a new bit of geometry to work with. And then here what I'm going to do is just target weld these into specific points. So target weld this one, this bottom corner here, into there, and this one to there. And then here I can decide whether to take it to the left side or the right side, like that. And then I can just use the target weld or the multi-cut to solve that. So back to there. And then we're in these. So then I've got these triangles. Oh, well, they're not triangles, they're quads. But we're going to turn them into triangles because of structural integrity. So here, what I can do is just bridge from this long edge here to this short edge here to complete that. And this one to there. So boom. There you go. And you can leave it like that, but sometimes I find that this will give you a bit of a dodgy face, but I'm actually going to leave that for now. So that's one way of fixing it. Right there. Another way is by grabbing this edge and bridge into there. Taking this edge and bridge into there. And then, up to daisy, filling in these triangles. So now we're left with triangles. So what I can do here is just extrude up a new face like that. Merge this edge together. So with this edge selected, I'm just going to merge the center. And then I'm going to target weld this new pointy bit to this point here. So this bit to there, like that. And then do the same thing on the opposite side. So this bit and this bit, I can just extrude up. Merge this one to itself, and then merge this one to itself. And then target weld those into the respected areas. So do different ways of fixing that problem. Both perfectly fine. Yeah, both perfectly fine. Then all I'm going to do now is just not bevel this one. I've decided to not bevel this one, just to slightly knock this in like this. Just a touch. Boom, then that's the face plate done for the switch. Now it's just to make the actual switch itself. And this one, we're going to use a sphere. Oh my god, we're actually going to use a sphere. So I'm going to use a sphere. I'm going to bring down both the subdivision and the height and axis down to 8. Like that. Nice and simple. I'm going to delete the bottom third of this, so like that. Because this is still going to be a switch which has like a rotational kind of gimbal in the inside. But we don't really need to see all of it. And then I'm just going to grab the 2 top groups of faces. Like this. And then extrude up. Whoop. Like that. Oh, you could, because that looks a little bit thick. What you could do is add another edge just around here. Like that. And then do these 2 instead. If you want it to be a little bit thinner. Then extrude that up. That's better. Because I do want to have that visible ball socket at the bottom. So bring that up a little bit. Decide my desired length. And then round this off as much as I can, or as much as I want. Let me just bevel this just to give it a bit more of a roundness. There you go. And then, because I've got that point in the middle there, I can just use V to snap to that. Look at that, isn't that lovely? Boom. Switch done. Let's do a save. So now let's UV this. This is going to be a little bit different to what we've done before, because this is mainly going to be flat bits. Because all the depth in this are actually quite shallow. Okay. So what I'm going to do is split this up into 2 or 3 chunks, excluding the switch itself. So the switch bed. In fact, I can combine all this together for now. I can have a look at the UVs. So now you can see where UVs get more and more jacked as you model more into it. UVs get really, really wacky. But that's fine. This, if I'm not going to accept people asking me, "Am I UV looking okay? What's wrong with my UVs?" This is what UVs look like. You know, the more and more you extrude, bridge, delete, add, bevel, whatever, the natural UVs get really wacky. But that's fine, because all I'm going to do is select the base plate section. So again, I'm going to grab the bottom face there, shift full stop to grow that selection up till you just get the section there. And I'm going to project this in the y-axis, because I'm going to look down. What's the biggest section of this? It's the biggest section is looking down at it. I don't really get much information looking from the sides. It's all from the top. So let me just planar project that from the y-axis. Make sure the keep image width height ratio is turned on. Boom. Moves it aside for now. Already we're cleaning up that UV space quite quickly. Next I'm going to do this bolt head. Again, planar projection y-axis. Move you off to the side. And then I'm going to do this section. Planar projections y-axis. Then all that's left is the actual switch itself, which I'm going to just do with a cylindrical. Oh no, make sure I've got just that selected. There we go. So here is where I can start to look at and go, ooh, something's not quite right on this one. It's because if you look where the seams are at the top, the seams are all kind of wacky, because here at the top it's not quite a cylinder, is it? This is more of a plane. So if I deselect this top bunch of faces, do a cylindrical, much better, but we're still getting some misalignment. You can see that this bit here is sticking out, and then we're kind of missing it from this area here. That's because if we look at the UVs, or look at the projection that there, it's kind of staggered. So this is where we want to use that little X. Click the blue circle to get our rotation, and just nudge it, because literally as soon as I nudge this, it's going to align all that seam to itself. Like that, boom. So now you see that all this is one solid. It's not got a bit hanging off the edge. Just that little bit of a nudge fixes it. So move it out the way. And then this, I'm just going to, that's all that's left. I'm just going to use a planar projection y-axis for that bit. Okay, cool. So everything's looking pretty good so far. But if we obviously look at our checkerboard, we can see that things aren't quite nice. This is very stretched. You can see on the sides there that we're missing all this information because it's a cross section. These are all vertical. So this is a cross section. So what I'm going to do is go bit by bit and just see what happens when I do a cylindrical unwrap. Sorry, cylindrical unwrap, sorry. Modify unfold 3D. So this is, like I said before, this is like the organic way of unfolding stuff. So what happens if I do that? Okay, that's looking okay. It's a bit stretchy in the corners, but it's starting to show the little faces on the side. There we go. Starting to show the little faces on the side there. But it is getting a little bit stretchy in the corners, so that's cool. This is part of what I'm showing you here is just because you do a projection and an unfold doesn't mean you're necessarily done. Because you might have to do things in multiple different, you know, like 1 or 2 or 3 times to get it looking good. Because I've done my projection from the y-axis, then I've done my first unfold, and now I'm going to unfold it again after I cut these corners right here. And then when I do the unfold again, I'll turn on the checkerboard as well. Much nicer. Much nicer. So I'm looking to see where the stretch is. I'm looking to see how much stretch there is and what I can get away with. And then I'm going to do another thing. I'm going to reanalyze my surface and see how close are things. Now these are really close to each other on the UV. When they've relaxed in the unfold, these haven't separated too much. So I'm actually going to sew these together again. Just these bits here, not the actual corner sections. So it's just these bits. And then I'm going to unfold it again. And then I'm going to call it quits there, because then I get as little seams as possible, but then also as little warping as possible. So boom. That's cool. And that's really important when you come to things that are more cube-based, because this is obviously a cube. It's got corners which are derived from a cube. These two things now are going to be a little bit different. I'm just going to hit these with an unfold 3D. So the bolt section, unfold 3D, boom. I'm just going to do it like that. Whatever warping happens in the corners there, I'm just going to accept it for these two. So they're done. They are a little bit, like this one especially, might be a little bit wonky, but I'm going to straighten that up in a second. And then all that's left is just this bit. Now this needs to be done the old-fashioned legacy way. So change it to legacy, unfold constraint vertical, boom. Oh, what's happened? What has happened? It appears this is playing funny buggers. Or is it? So I'm not sure what's going on there because the projection here, the checkerboard looks perfectly fine, but yet the UV itself looks a little bit funky. So what I'm going to do is just delete history, freeze transformation. There shouldn't be any of that information there, but I'm going to just do another unfold. Huh. Interesting. Interesting indeed. So that, for some reason, wants to go up there. And honestly, I don't know why it's doing that. Again, things are acting a little bit funny. You can see there how it's cutting off. Okay, but it's just that section there. But I'm just going to manually move that down. Alright, what if I just do the whole projection method again with this. So projection, find the little red X, nudge it so all those align, and then we do unfold. Okay, so it's doing it again. Honestly, okay. Have I done another? Yes, okay, I've done another double extrusion. So again, my UVs are telling me something's wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew these together again. So you can see double extrusion right there. That's the problem area. I'm going to sew those together to get rid of them. And then if I do the unfold now, it should actually unfold better. There we go. That's better. So if your UVs acting like that are acting a bit funky, it's probably an indication something's wrong. So you can see how easy it is to make those double extrusions. So before I actually kind of arrange these in textile density them, I'm going to just straighten these two up. They're a little bit wonky where everything else is fine. So what I'm going to do is just select it in UV mode, modify, and then straighten shell. Just above where it says unfold, you get straighten shell. That's not straightening how I want it to. So if I grab those two center UVs, straighten shell, that's better. So I grab the two center UVs and it straightens those against each other, which straightens the whole thing. So then if I do these, if I grab all those center UVs going down the middle and I straighten shell, sorry. Boom, there we go. Right. Nice and straight. So I get the textile density from this. I'll apply it to all of this. There we go. And then I can start bringing these together. Now here's a neat little trick we can do with UVs. If my UV is small enough, I could possibly put it in the middle, because this void right there is empty. That's empty pixel space. So what I can do is, if something's small enough like that, I can fit it in the middle. So for now, I'm going to put this in the middle there. That just uses the space up, that's all. Same for this, I could put this in the middle of this little bolt head to save some space. Oopsie daisy. There you go. And then put you here or something. So let's arrange that. There's like a nice little family. There we go. Cool, so they're done. I'm just going to put these down here, let's say. There you go. So where are we at? We're just over an hour, and we've done all the big bits, or all the kind of little noodly bits, or the filigree, the greeblies. Nearly done all of them. So the last one we used to do is this little one of these little bumps here. Now what is that? That's just a little bump. It's slightly oblong, slightly rectangular. So I'm just going to quickly do one of these. It's not going to be hard at all. So it's about that. Let's flare out the bottom using the scale. Something like that. Take away the bottom because obviously we're not going to see that. And I'm going to bevel all these edges here. Bevel all those edges. Just a touch. Just a skosh. Just that. And again, I'm going to UV this. So we're done with all these bits. Because I'm going to have this used 5 times, so why do I need to make it 5 times? I could just make it once and have done with it. So that's selected. I'm just going to do an automatic, and this one I'm going to do the same trick I did before. I'm going to cut up a lot of different bits and sew them back onto each other. So I'm going to grab this center face, and I'm just going to. So that's my main face. This is my middle main face. So I'm just going to have this on its own. And then build onto this. So I'm just going to grab all these, cut all these up into individual chunks. Shift X is what I'm doing to cut all these up. Cut also lives up obviously in the cut menu. And then I'm going to sew these on. So I should one first pass, all that top section should just grab all the thin faces like that, and then I should be able to just grab those, boom, boom, and then sew those on like there, and then I've just got these little triangles that I could sew on to say there, like that. So boom, sew them triangles into the corner, and again I'm using that G to repeat last tool very, very effectively. Done. Super easy. So easy. And you can straighten this up if you want to, the same way we did before. So I grab all these across there. So grab, and let's align those to the lowest, so like that. And then I grab these ones, grab, and align these to the highest. And then these ones, align these to the highest. Oops. Then align these to the lowest. Then align these to the furthest right. And then align these to the furthest left. You can do something like this. Let's check out what that checkerboard looks like. Okay. Yeah, it's not too bad. This just gives you a bit of a more regular shape. If you leave it a little bit flared like it originally was before I straightened everything up, that's totally cool. I really don't care. This is just something you can do because the change in angle isn't actually that great. So any warping is quite subtle. It's when it's like really, you go from like a small edge to a very, very large edge. That's, if you straighten those out, then that's when you get mega warping. But boom, done. So I'll put you somewhere. Move you. There you go. Put you with everything else, and let's have a look what your UV is. Yep. So your UV can just be moved to the side a little bit. There you go. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to be really cheeky. I'm going to have a look at that. So okay, the distance between each one of them, I'm going to duplicate. Now here's a new kind of cool thing you can learn as well, you can use, is if I know I want to have equidistant spacing between these, I could use the grid, but I could also use a quick little trick, what we call a duplicate special. A duplicate special is a duplicate which inherits movements from another one, a previous duplicate. So we do that by Shift D instead. So Shift D is duplicate special. So that's my original. Shift D duplicates, and then if I move it, so I'm going to say, okay, the distance between both of them are going to be something like that. And if I press Shift D again, it duplicates that, and Shift D again duplicates it, Shift D again. So that Shift D is basically repeating the same function I've just done to space these apart. So now each one of these is equidistantly spaced apart. So now I can grab all those, combine them together, and then in my UVs I can just, you know, somehow arrange these how I want. So I can arrange these in a nice little group. Like that. Nice and organized. Just like that. So now they're all those. Cool. For now. Cool. So I've made a bunch of stuff there. I've made all the all the little stick-on bits. Oh, I've not got the dials on the side, so I'll also make the dials. So while I'm here making all these little bits, so I might break this up into 2 bits. So we'll call this the bits video. Okay. So the last one is the little dials on the side. And what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing again the same process that I probably go about making the bolt head. So I'll start off with a lower resolution version, and then make the higher resolution sections out of this, rather than going from the high to the low. But I'm also paying attention and seeing that there is a little bit of like a spiky element on each one of the corners, like a bit of a grip. So I've got to remember that. So let's make one of those. So what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's another 6-sided cylinder. So let me make a cylinder. Let me make a 6 sides. And again, we're going to take this all the way to finalized UV'd. So how tall is this? It's, you know what? It's about that size. It's about that length. Okay, so I'm happy about that. Right, so let's make the main body in this top section first, and then we'll make the little rubberized section at the bottom last. Okay, so let's make the little grip sections. Very, very easy to do this. I'm going to grab all the outside edges, like this. Actually, before I do this, to make it easier on myself, I'm actually going to take away the bottom faces as well. So yeah, grab all the center edges, vertical ones, and then I'm going to bevel these, because what I'm looking at is this little triangle is like a little pyramid on the surface. So I want to have, okay, so let's, how big are they? So I'm using the fractions there just to get the right kind of size in there, like that. So a 0.25, 0.24, 0.24. Okay. And then I'm going to add a segment to make that segment 2. Like that. So now this point I've just added in becomes my little spiky pyramid section. So now if I go around and grab those, I can then just scale those out using the square, because I don't want to have the y-axis be used. So I'm going to use the green square. I'm just going to bring it out a little bit. So now you can see, lovely, in it. Now to make the inside circle here, I'm just going to grab all this top group of 8 edges, 6 edges, sorry, Shay. Make sure if I got anything else selected. Nope. I'm going to extrude, offset that inwards. Now because I've got those bevels here, that's actually increasing the amount of edges I've got going around the outside. Here I've actually got 18. I've got a little heads up display thing going on. And I've got 18 edges in this area here, rather than 6. So that gives me a much higher resolution circle in the middle. So I'll bring that in a little bit, and then I'm just going to circularize it. Now if it twists too much like this, so I'm going to go to my top view. If it twists too much like that, as you can see, it's not mean it's broken or anything like that. I've just got to twist it back. So on my circularize option box here, I've got twist. And I'm just going to twist that back. And I might need to just increase the sensitivity of that. There we go. And I'm going to eyeball this in at first. And this looks to be about 13 degrees. Like that. If it looks as straight as possible, that's good for me. And I'm using that center line going through the middle there as my kind of like guiding rod. And it was close enough to 13 degrees. So I've just made it 13 degrees. And then to carry this on, you can see it kind of goes in a little bit of a depression. So I'll just extrude that, push it down. Scale it in a little bit. I like to think there's a little bit of a dip inside there, and then extrude merge the center to fix up all those end-ons. Hey, look at that. Isn't that nice? And then the outside is going to be exactly the same, but just opposite. Just the opposite, really. So I'm going to grab all the bottom edges there. I'm going to extrude, offset that outward. Or in this case, thickness it outwards to about the thickness. You can see there that if we look, it's not too far of a distance from the bottom of that thing to there. So I'm going to circularize this. Again, if it twists, I'm going to just use a twist inside the options just to bring it back in. And we're near -6 here, so if I go -6, it's close enough, you know, that's fine. Boom. It's slightly crooked, but again, I'm not particularly that bothered. Although, no, I want to be neat, and I want to be nice and neat. So 5.75. No, minus 5.75. There we go. So minus 5.75. So I'm really paying attention to see if there's a minus in that or not. There we go. So that looks as close as. And then, yeah, just extrude down. I think I'm going to extrude it out a bit further. Not extrude, sorry. I'm just going to scale it out a little bit further. Because I do want that bevel. That is obviously, pardon me, a beveled edge. So pull that down a little bit. I'm going to pull this down a little bit further than I would as well, because this is going to go into a boolean later on. So I want to have enough in there to make it look like. In fact, I might even adjust it later on and bring it all the way to the surface of the screen. So that if you do see in between the cracks of this object, you do see it's actually connected to the object. But for now, I'll leave it like that. I'll do the bevel around the edge. This doesn't look like a massive bevel, but I will give it one additional, because this is a fairly large kind of chunk of an object. But yeah, but just like that. Yes, boom. Lovely. And again, I'll make one of those because we'll repeat, we'll just duplicate what we made before. Just like we did before with the screws and stuff. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's delete history, freeze transformations before I go UV in this. And again, I'm going to approach this the same way I've been approaching everything. So as my UVs, they look jacked. I'm going to go around and do the cylindrical sections first. And I'm going to do this bit. So this bit I'm going to do a bit differently as well. So it's still cylindrical, but I'm going to grab the top little ring there, because there's not that much distance there. There's not that much, you know, it's not a flat area. This is still fairly small and closed. So I'm just going to project that one at the same time. So cylindrical projection, move that out of the way for now. I can see something's overhanging there, but because we're dealing with a lot of like diagonal edges like this, we might just have to deal with that for the time being. Okay. Next is the main body, so I'm just going to grab that, and in fact, you know what I'm going to do before I carry on? I am going to give one bevel to the whole of the outside here. Just one bevel. Just to smooth it off. There you go. Just like that. Okay, cool. So yeah, grab that, and then I'm going to grab that top bevel I've just done there. Cylindrical unwrap. Now I'm not really bothered about where the seam is on this too much, because these are round surfaces. The texture is going to be repeatable. You know, I'm not too fussed about this, so move you to the side. All that's left is now the top and the inside there, so I'm going to grab the inside. Because I'm also looking at this. This looks like an actual separate, it's like plastic. I can imagine that's like a glossy plastic kind of thing for this bit. So I'm going to grab this bit on its own. Just do a planar projection y-axis because it's facing upwards and it's flat. So move it out of the way. Then all that's left should be just the top bit there. And this, again, it's pretty much planar projection y-axis because it's pretty much facing upwards. So I'm going to just planar projection y-axis. That. So that, let's do a quick save, boom. And now just do some unwrapping. So this one here, unfolding, so to say. This one here, I'm just going to hit that with an unfold 3D. Just like I did with other stuff. So unfold 3D, perfect. That's only just to relax the inside faces there, because they're obviously at a diagonal angle. So there, they look far smaller on the y-axis than they do here. So just with that unfold, just allows it to unfold a little bit better. The other two, I'm just going to do a legacy vertical. So change it to legacy, constraint vertical, perfect. And that one, perfect. Now, this is where I start to just have to look at stuff and go, is it perfect? Do I need to change anything? Do I need to adjust anything? Well, I do, because this, they both kind of unfolded wobbly, but this one specifically has unfolded. It gets wider at the end here and thinner at the end back here. And that's just because of the tension that comes with that UV. You've got smaller faces on the left-hand side section and bigger face on the right-hand side section. I'm going to switch up a little bit of something on this, though, before I fix it. I'm actually going to cut this face here. So where are we on this? So the seam is like right there. right there. So what I'm going to do is force the seam to be there after the fact. And I'm even going to do that with the bottom piece down here. So I've made a judgment call to ignore, you know, rotating around the UVs in the original projection to find the right seam. Now I'm actually deciding, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fix this up. I could either go back and project it, find the little red X, rotate it around to find that position, or I could fix it up manually in these UVs. I'm just showing you that, you know, this is just another way of doing stuff. So I'm going to cut this off and then sew this back onto the other side. So the seam is now at the peak of that section there. I'm going to follow it down and do the same thing here. Right there. So I'm going to cut that. And I'm going to sew that back onto the other side. Like that. Which already neatens that one up quite a bit. You can see now that's nice and regular. That pattern. I'm always looking for patterns when I'm doing this. Pattern, 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 pattern. So now it's just about straightening stuff up. So I could do stuff manually like I've just done before using the align and snap by, you know, going through, grabbing faces, or grabbing vertex UVs, and then saying, right, align these to the lowest, for instance, like that. I could also try something else, which might work, it might not work. I can come up to where it says modify, and I can come down to straighten the UVs. So a straightened shell won't change the layout of the UV. It's just going to arrange, it's going to rotate and arrange the UV shell. Arrange UVs will actually straighten the actual UVs themselves. So if I do that, you'll see, boom, that changes from something a little bit wobbly to something nice and straight. So that's worked on this. Let's see what it does with this, because this has got diagonal angles. Okay, so that's actually worked on that one as well, which is good. It's maintained those diagonal angles. All it's done is just straightened up the inside there. What this might do sometimes is turn these diagonal angles into straight angles, or may even bring them down to be flat angles like this. So that's what I'm looking out for. But this has actually done a really good job. It's actually perfect. Can't fault that. So that's just another way of straightening stuff up. So you've got the manual way where you use the align tool here, which in some ways, for some purposes, is good, and then the way where you allow it to try and do it by itself using the straighten UVs. And boom, they're done. So let me just, I'm going to scale this down a little bit. I'm going to get that ratio, I'm going to apply it to everything else. There we go. Again, I'm going to make the decision, just like I did before, to keep these actually the same size relative to each other, but I'm going to apply that ratio to this instead, just like that. Because the scale difference, the size difference isn't going to be that much of a difference. I just kind of want these two to be the same width, because if they are different, I might get, again, I get little awkward sections like this. For now, I'm going to keep them the same size. I might change that later on. Can I fit you inside there? No. So I could do this, where I just scale this one down a little bit to fit inside there, which I will do for now. Oh, give us a sec. And I'm back. So yeah, I'm going to leave that. So why I'm not adjoining these two together as well is because they're physically different materials. You know, I'm thinking if this is a gloss plastic and this is like a vulcanized rubber, then I want to have physical UV separation so that there's no kind of like material bleed or anything like that. But for now, again, boom, done. So we're speeding through this. Absolutely speedy through. Okay, so we've got, there's a lot of stuff been done. Screws, diodes, plugs, plug, switch, bumpy bits, dials. That's pretty much it for those bits. Yeah, awesome. And we even UV'd them all as well. So we're actually ahead of the game a little bit, which is cool. So I'm actually going to rearrange these just to move them over here. Again, at this point, I'm not particularly worried about the textile density sizes between each of them. because I can adjust that all later on. I'm just trying to get these UV'd ahead of time. And like I said, you can do what I've just done then and UV those as you make them, or you could wait until you've made them all and then UV them. You know, there's no problem either way. But I want you to pay attention as well to what we've done with these UVs and even the construction. They're all very basic shapes. You know, and we're using the exact same kind of techniques, you know, going from small to big. So these bolts and this dial here, we go from a smaller six-sided shape to a denser interior shape, pretty much the exact same way. In this case on the dial, we go from a smaller shape to a more higher res shape on the outside, pretty much the exact same way. This one, we're marrying a cube and a cylinder together, but again, it's pretty much the exact same thing. We're sorting out the outside of the cube first, and then we're sorting out the interior cylinder second, getting those shapes looking nice independently, and then just bridging those together. Obviously, these are super simple. We made one, we just beveled the edges, then we duplicated it. This was a little bit trickier for both modeling and UVing, but again, it's still very, very simple. So cool. So I'm going to end this video there, because that's a lot of stuff that we've just done right there, which is awesome. So I'm going to end this video right there, and then well, depending on what order I'm watching this, or you're watching this, or I'm making these, we're going to be building the battery next, or we're going to be finishing off the modeling next, as well as the UVing, and basically finishing off the model. So this might be a 2-3 parter. Okay, see you in the next one.